Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Big Bend Fishing Report. Know we were just on a couple of weeks ago, but we're gonna try to do it more often. And
it's fall; things are moving fast.
Yes,
fishing's getting better.
It's moving both ways fast.
Yes, in and out.
Yeah, it's So for those of you who don't know, I'm Captain Kenny Mullins.
Pat McGriff, One More Cast Guide Service.
And Captain Greg Duvall.
So we've all been on the water.
Pat kept us busy over the weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. So speaking of this weekend, it was pretty good, wasn't it, Pat?
Yes, we had three captains on the water, had these two swapped out and had Brent there filling in. And we had, the second day, Saturday, we had 31, 34, and 36 pounds for a 15 trout limit with a couple of reds in each box.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't that make it?
Yeah.
With 2 reds each.
I miscounted, so I was 1 trout short, but
yeah. Well, anyway, the reds and all.
Yeah.
But we had more big fish. Greg had a 4-pound trout Saturday. I had a 4-pound trout. 23-inch fish I had Tuesday of this week. Water temperature has everything to do with it. It was 76 is the lowest I've seen, and it came up to 80 Tuesday. And the same thing today, according to a report from a friend of mine, David Bosch from Tifton, who's out on the water until Saturday or Sunday. Me and David caught a couple of trout on Vita baits. Y'all remember those? The people that have fished at Keaton for years will remember that. It's no longer in production. Greg, you caught fish on Miradines, right?
Yeah, we caught on Miradines. We were throwing the flukes, the 5-inch flukes.
Right.
We did good on them, and then we at the end we were kind of using. Kenny said the day before he was catching them on the little Bass Assassin PBs under a popping cork, and we caught some on that too.
Right.
So it was a good mixture all weekend. Just depended on how deep the water was and what kind of bottom we were fishing over. And I tried to stay over hard bottom most of the time, and it worked out pretty good. Seemed like the first part of the incoming was the best for me.
Huh.
Yeah.
Mine was the last of the incoming. My best bite, and we caught 5. I think we had 8 trout. When we only needed 4, we had 8 keepers in 45 minutes when the tide flipped Saturday.
Friday I had, I didn't get a big trout, and I only had 1 small red, but we had 22 pounds of trout. 15 trout. It was 22 pounds, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Anyways, I started out with live shrimp, and we caught quite a few short fish, and then I switched over to the Assassin little P&V in Laguna shrimp and started catching better fish. And then I switched to the chicken on chain, and it was on fire after that.
Right.
That they wanted that chicken on chain, and I had a
in the P&V, right?
In the P&V, I had a under a 4 horseman cork with about a 2.5-foot leader, and we were in shallow water, but I rigged it with a 4/0 J hook, just nose hooked it with no weight. So that 2.5-foot leader,
Mm-hmm.
it worked fine in the shallow water because it was sinking so
Just
slow.
fluttered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I had one boy throw the chicken on chain 5-inch under float on the 1/16th, and he caught right at half, like 7 of our 15, I think, and he lost a couple of our better fish. So that was Saturday. So the chicken on chain Assassin was doing real well.
Yeah, and that was a color I noticed we had on Saturday. Out of all our keeper trout, we had probably 8 of them were between 18 and 19 inches. So they were good solid trout. And then we had the one that was over, but almost every one of them we caught.
Yeah,
every one of the big trout came on that color, and I was using the fluke just on a regular rigging hook with an 1/8 ounce weight on it. And then the others came on, the rest of the trout came on the Miradines.
Well, that's a great difference than a week ago or 2 weeks ago. that those fish are moving in. A lot of them, I think, are moving in because their stomachs are empty. And there was plenty of bait there, so you would have thought they'd had something in their stomach. There was a lot of ballyhoo there, and mullet were moving around. That's put the reds on us. Brent, I think, caught 19 redfish Saturday. My boat, I think we threw back. I don't think we threw back but 2. But then I threw back 7 Tuesday. So those reds were in there with those mullet and that ballyhoo. I don't know.
I'll tell you this, you got to fight off the ladyfish and the jacks to get to
Yes.
the trout and reds.
See, now I didn't have that problem, but
Well, since the water's warming back up now, Greg will tell you yesterday.
They became a lot more aggressive.
they got it back in the program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed on Friday when I fished, I had a lot more ladyfish and jacks, and it seemed like every fish that you reeled in, the jacks were chasing them around. And then Saturday, I didn't notice. Saturday and Sunday, I didn't notice it as much, but yesterday it was, every time you got around something that had a little bit of current over an oyster bar or something like that, there was ladyfish waiting.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, they're going to find those ballyhoo.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to come in now that it's cool. But
And the other thing we caught yesterday too, we caught a couple mackerel.
Yeah.
We saw some big explosions in the ballyhoo, and when you throw to them, it was a lot of times it was mackerel. I got cut off once, and then I caught a nice mackerel, and beyond that, it was there was a couple small mackerel, but you'd see the ladyfish, strifing through the ballyhoo and all like that. But I kept seeing it all morning only because I was on top looking out. But there was giant, as big as this table, holes in the water being made out in probably 3-4 foot of water. And I think they were sharks, but I don't know. But they were literally, they just blow up. Huge explosions.
I saw that once Saturday.
And
It was a lot yesterday.
yeah, I've
A
probably
lot.
seen it 9 or 10 times. And the only thing I can figure is sharks. Because tarpon, if they're free jumping, you'll see them.
You'll see a fin at least.
Yeah, you'll catch a glimpse of a tarpon. These were just like something just ripping through the water, like they were hitting mullet. And
Probably bull sharks.
yeah, they were aggressive. And they were hungry. There were several of them.
Well, we had trouble with the little sharp nose out there when we moved Tuesday. It was so slick. I finally got tired. I was trying the shallows, and the water wasn't in there yet. And we caught some trout out there, but the sharks, we had 4 or 5 on one drift, little guys.
Mm-hmm.
But they were bothersome. But that was with live bait. Now, I didn't see that Saturday. I think we had one. I think we hooked one all day Saturday.
Yeah, I think that water was a little cooler over the weekend. And we had pretty stiff winds, both them days that I fished over the weekend. It was I'd say 20 to 25 at times. It was pretty stiff.
We're gonna have some real stiff wind tomorrow and Saturday.
I'm
Real
glad
stiff.
I'm gonna be sitting right.
What's
right
that?
on
You
that
said
porch.
Kenny's going to be 30, gusting to 30.
Yeah. So 8 a.m. tomorrow morning is max gust at 34 out of the northeast. 11 a.m. is 31. Then it slacks off. Gets down to 23, and then back up to 28.
So we might have water by Saturday morning.
No, because Saturday morning it's gonna be blowing 30 out of the northeast.
30.
Might be time to break the airboat out. That water's gonna be gone.
Yeah, the problem is, so will the fish.
Yeah, they won't. They're not in the creeks yet.
And
For
then
sure.
you know what it's like to be out there at 30 mile an hour on an airboat.
It's okay as long as it's dry.
Yeah.
Wow.
The problem is all the resistance when you
Yeah.
got to head back into it.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah. And that's, October, it's kind of funny because, we go through the summertime and we're like, oh, I can't wait till it cools off. And, everybody's always red October. And typically, it always gets better in October. But it seems to me the last few years, November has been the month that it really stabilizes and really kicks off where you're back to catching the big numbers of fish again.
Right.
October, you can have a day or two, it seems like, but it just doesn't stay consistent because your weather patterns. Like
Yeah.
like it goes from being 90. Tomorrow we're only supposed to be 75, and then the weekend's gonna be cool.
Yeah, it's been about the last 3 to 4 years that transition has happened, where it's changed from October to November, and the same thing in the spring.
Yeah.
Now February is the old March.
Yes.
March is the old April.
Is the new.
I mean, sorry, new April.
Yeah.
the new April.
That's
The
what
new
I meant.
April. Yeah.
February is the
old April.
And what's
It's
funny about all
gone.
that is it always it has you question you question yourself, because you fished your whole life, and it's always been those months have always been the ones that you're ready to light it up, and now you're like, wow, did I forget how to fish?
well, not to get too political, but maybe now that it's law that they can't have any weather altering.
We're back to normal
at the Florida airports.
There you go. Yeah, no more Africa there. Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
man.
Well,
I'll leave my
global
10 hat at
warming
home.
is a hoax, according to your almighty. To the-
Anyway, back to the fishing. We don't want Pat getting in on this.
Oh,
I'm
man.
not saying a word. I'm just saying it's a hoax. Well, what we lose is our plug fishing because of the grass. We can't get rid of that grass. Now, if this northeast is blowing like that for 3 or 4 days, it might clear up
Mhm.
for us to throw plugs the rest of the year. So if it'll come, I hope it will stay and blow like that. And if it was on last week with these negative tides, it would have blown that grass on offshore.
Mhm.
But there was a lot of grass in areas that I was trying to just throw a cork and grub and a cork and pinfish Tuesday. It was still hanging around. It's still there. But it takes away the spring fishing. We used to have 6 weeks of plugs. Top water, you could throw a stick bait for a month, 3 weeks to a month. Now you're lucky to have 3 to 4 days instead of 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I've got so many stick baits that I don't even know what they look like. I don't even remember them. I need, bring that box with me, and it's the curse of the devil. The grass will be so bad you can't throw a grub.
I had a old timer, not Pat, an old timer tell me one time and show me this, that on all the top waters, typically we have the 2 hooks. So he told me when the grass was bad, he goes, take that front hook off there and just use it with the rear hook. And it won't keep it clean completely, but it works probably 80% better without that front hook. You can still walk in. If it messes with the balance of the bait, you can take that lead wrap they stuff and they make, and you can put it around the eyelet there just to give it the weight of the hook so it sits properly in the water. But with just that rear hook, a lot of that grass will just slide through that rear hook, and you can still work those baits. And I mean, I've had some. Very rarely do you not hook a fish. When he's hitting the top water, he's usually hitting it from the back anyway. So you usually don't miss many more fish because of that hook. But it gives you a lot more fishing time when you have little grass.
Well, another trick is to throw on the mirror lure. I don't remember. I think it's a 7M that has the blades,
Mhm.
the prop bait, and take the rear prop off
Yep.
and just put the front prop, and it'll help clear some of that grass from that bait. We used to do that in the winter and remove the rear one in the summer. But so it'll remove the forward one, in the summer, so it'll work faster.
Yeah.
But the double hook, I always say any bait that has 3 hooks, I take off the center hook, because you lose fish because the fish you don't get a good hook set. You
Like
share
like redfin, cotton cordell redfin.
any lip bait or stick bait that has 3, like a devil horse.
Mhm.
Get rid of, or a super spook. A super czar spook has 3. Get rid of the middle hook, and you get a full closure of the mouth. And if he closes his mouth on a stick bait, he's yours. If his mouth is open and you stop that hook from opening by having the center hook, and I grade them up. If I take off 4s, I put back 2s. If I take off 6s, I put back 4s. In other words, to get the balance back,
Mhm.
I put the next size up
A little
fish.
heavier.
Plus, I don't throw a stick bait to catch little trout. I throw it to catch big trout, so over the slot fish. So having a bigger hook on there is just a bonus. I'd rather have 1 on the number 2 than have him on 4s and lose him because there's 2 there. But your trick is also you can put double hooks, which swing and the hooks back.
Yeah.
The one on the back was still hooked. The forward one might as well not be there
Right.
if it's a double.
Yeah.
And doesn't Eric make some doubles now that first?
I've seen them. Yeah, I'm sure they do.
But I used to clip the one that's facing forward. Just clip it off and turn a double into it. I mean, turn a treble into a double hook. That's
Plus,
all
you could always
work.
go to inline single hook.
Yeah, inline hooks catch a lot less grass for sure.
Well, to me, it's just give me the clear water, and it's more fun, and I don't have to modify everything I've got in the box.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are some tricks that work. But
So speaking of redfin,
I wasn't.
So I was, but that is what Brent caught a lot of his fish on.
Oh yeah,
And that's way early in the year, but when
well,
it works, it works.
there was enough bait in there that any small lip bait should have worked.
Mhm.
But you tried to make them come up for top. Did you? How much success?
Yeah,
did you
I mean, I
have?
would catch them on top. You get them come up and, we didn't catch any big trout on top. I take that back. We caught one big trout on top. Most of them were, smaller slot fish, but they hit it well. I mean, I had one of my guys could throw it. That's always the problem with top water is being able to have clients that can actually work them.
You'd mean that your clients can't all
Not
throw
all
a
of
stick bait
Not
and
all.
walk the dog?
Not all.
Well, why haven't you taught them all how to do that, Greg?
I haven't been at it as long as you've had.
I don't.
I'm
even-
working on it.
Hey, it's like in the summer when I have one or two, I'll have one or two stick baits or lip baits hanging on the console windshield. And some child usually will say, "When do we use those?" And I'll say, "We don't." If they don't know how to throw them, I've just gotten too old to teach people how. I mean, I can still do it, but if I only want one or two people on the boat, if I got three on the boat, we're not throwing the treble.
No, I'm the same way.
It's just like a fly fisherman. If you've got one person, you can throw a fly, but you'll notice there's two people with fly rods on the same boat, unless you've got
That's a
a
mess.
really
That's
big
like
boat.
duck and dodge.
Yeah.
No, I said, look, the only reason you can't do that is because I don't have a motorcycle helmet with a full visor. If I had that, I'd let you throw that.
You need a
fly.
full beekeeper suit.
I'm not nearly as fast as I used to be.
No, I've still got my original eyes, thanks to that rule about treble hook. But anyway, that's coming. I love it. I love the stick baits, and I love the damn lip bait. I've caught a lot of fish on it by having it available as a follow-up. I follow up a lip bait with a unweighted 5-inch, and I follow a stick bait with a lip bait because he wants to see it. He wants it to go down, but he wants it to stay there in his face. So that's what I like to do if I'm seriously plug fishing. I've got one person throwing a stick, one throwing a lip, and one throwing the plastic. And if you got some casters that can hit a target,
Mhm.
you can catch all those misses, or
Yeah.
you can get
Yeah.
We did that a couple
Good
times
chance.
yesterday. I was throwing top water and they'd come up and blow up on it. And we were filming a show out there yesterday. It was Mike Anderson. He would throw right in behind and we hooked probably 4 or 5 fish that missed the top water, but
Yep.
grabbed the jig right away.
right.
And-
Jerk bait.
People that fish with me knows I'll throw top water a lot for that reason.
Yeah.
Just
To
to
draw
get them.
fish.
Yeah, to draw the fish, and a lot of times I'll try to not hook them.
Yeah.
So that they can cast in behind. Of course, that doesn't always work.
So here's a little something we used to do down in Central and South Florida when we were
I know where you're going with it.
Yeah, when you'd have schools of redfish that would drift away from you, and you could literally take a topwater. I'd take them with no hooks on them, and you'd throw it that school, and you'd work it across it, and those fish would come up and bust on it, and you could pull that whole school back within casting distance of your clients after they drifted away. And once you could hook 2 or 3 of them again, they'd all start staying right in that area again. If they settle down and start moving away from you, you do the same thing. You throw that top water across them, and if you could get them to blow up on it and chase it, that whole school would come right to you, and you could literally bring them within 10 yards of the boat. They just wouldn't quit.
That's within casting distance of Pat. Even.
I think Pat could have done it.
Got 'em.
He could have seen them at least.
I'm telling you. Well, that then, you would think with he's got a TT boat, tunnel tower, so he can reach out there and see them better from a greater distance, and he can spot them from greater distance.
That's a nice way to say I'm cheating.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying that if you're casting from up there and you're
Oh, yeah.
starting, 12, 15 feet off the water or whatever it is that you get to, love, we're doing a podcast. Can I call you back?
Oh my God, yes.
Okay.
Live.
Yeah. Well, this is the best way to do it. Anyway, the TT, I always say that if you see if you usually don't see the whole school of reds before they're on you.
Right.
I had my boys with that. Was it Sunday or Tuesday? And I'm yelling at them, cast.
That
And
was
of course-
Friday.
Was that Friday?
Friday.
Did you? And that was the biggest cluster. I'm telling you, we didn't get another bait over there to them. And I turned around and looked at them like, well, boys, that's exactly, as my daddy would say, the part we came for.
Yeah.
And I said, y'all just didn't do it. I mean, when I say throw a bait over there,
Well, I thought you were talking about whenever you had the wrong bait.
oh man, it was like that's when he'll have one on that big. I said, what were you doing? What were you fishing for with that bait? I got it in there for cut bait. Yeah, that's when they reel in, and the bait they have on is either that big or it's dead.
Yeah.
And inevitably,
And mauled.
yeah, and we got bites, and we couldn't put a hook in them because he ran the hook through his cheeks instead of through the nose, so there's no hook sticking out. And I go, well, a little bit of luck helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, but those schools, I haven't seen schools of 50 and 100 fish in October in 4 or 5 years, Kenny, would you say? Usually those fish are, when that water's cooler, below 70 or around 70. And that's a big bonus that we're seeing them early there around.
Yeah.
I don't think those fish were here. I think those fish have migrated here already. I think they're on the move because we've all three spent a lot of time in shallow water and we hadn't been seeing those.
Not like that. That school, I think it was Saturday that I came up on. It was right there, where Brent was fishing,
Mhm.
and they came right to us. And the fish we'd been catching, the redfish we'd been catching that day, were very, very orange, very, very dark. And that school, we pulled 2 fish out of that school, and they were both, the pink, where they looked like they had just kind of migrated in.
That's
They
right.
hadn't been in very tannin water very long.
No, they hadn't been in that dirty water. We were
Same thing
fishing.
with a lot of the trout I caught on Friday. A lot of them were, you could tell they just came in from out deep.
Yeah, very silver.
Yeah, it's moving month. October, September used to be moving month. Now it's October.
Yeah.
And October can be tough on that moving because those fish are not going to stop and eat as they're moving for whatever's bringing them. They're going to it, and they don't know where they're going, but they're moving in because that water's cooler.
And you might
And-
catch them in one spot, one point one day,
Mm-hmm.
and go back there, and there won't be a fish there the next day.
Right.
So it's a month. You just, we do it anyway. Typically, you're always bouncing,
Right.
and working your way. You're looking for all the clues. You're looking for mullet, ballyhoo, bait, and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But right now, it doesn't always mean there's going to be fish there.
No, I mean, you and I fished Tuesday in a different part of the
Yeah.
region, and there was bait everywhere,
Yeah.
and there was no fish.
No.
I caught one short red, one short trout.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
fished probably 5 hours.
4 or 5 hours. Yeah. Yeah. And covered a lot of water. And there just wasn't.
They just weren't there.
Yeah. They just weren't there.
Well, that the plastic, my chicken on chain was not effective. I think I threw it. I may have thrown it for 30, 40 minutes. I didn't fish most of the day with just 2 anglers. I didn't want to be the one catching the fish, so I didn't throw much. And but they didn't really want it. They didn't want that, and they ate it up Friday and Saturday. Kenny caught them on chicken and chain. We were throwing. I was throwing crochet and I can't tell you. pink Laguna shrimp and the other one. But yeah,
I caught them on Laguna shrimp, but nowhere near as good as the chicken on the chain.
Yeah, that's one
That's
that was
right.
good for us. But
well, that bright tail helped us because we were in that dark water. I threw some some butt naked and caught them because it's got a chartreuse tail too. So I think that was the key in that darker water we were in.
But that's also the first part that is gone. There's a lot of pinfish out there.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yep. And those up that in that water that far north they're big ones. You know, there's very little.
Yes, they are.
There's very little ones, and they'll eat the plastic real quick.
shoot, we were hooking them on mirrodines yesterday. I mean,
Yeah.
they were literally attacking the mirrodines.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was good. I mean, they were like I said, they were palm
And
size.
it was
pinfish.
probably 15 or 20 of them.
Oh, easily.
Well,
Easily.
I put the curse of the Pharaoh on me. I stopped at Wilson's and got 3 bags because I was down to 20. I had 20 chicken on a chain because I had given Brent some. And that was Monday. Joyce, I said, let me stop in here a minute. And I went in and bought 3 bags and didn't catch a fish on them
Mhm.
Tuesday. Because I put the curse. So I may have to give those bags away in order to catch a fish on the
Just
chicken
got
on
to
the
buy a
chain.
different color.
I gotta throw different colors anyway. Yeah.
You go buy other colors, and the fish will come back and eat what they're supposed to eat.
Well, when I bass fish years ago, we would be catching fish on Zooms, new color. They come out with something, and cow is what we used to call it, cow color of the week.
Hmm.
And Chambers would build a different color every 2 weeks just to keep the money, the cash flow going.
Mhm.
And we'd buy it and catch the hell out of fish on it. Then order a bag of 100. They come in. I still have that bag of 100 that I give. You could not give them away once you had a bag of 100.
They say the colors are for the fishermen.
Right. Cow, color of the week is what
Yeah.
we used to say. But I fished my way through a lot of plastic that didn't catch a fish, bass and trout.
So we got a couple of comments came in. One of them I touched on a little bit. It says, I've also heard of replacing this from Nick Brandon. So I've also heard replacing the trebles with single hooks. How does that work, better or worse?
Depends on what you want to do. You catch less fish, but when you hook one, you're going to land him because that single hook, you're going to get penetration. You may miss some of the smaller fish that are generally not taking it as well, but the bigger fish, you're going to catch them.
And it's going to work better when you have that floating grass.
Yeah, it's going to, and another thing too is there's whenever you put trout and treble hooks together, it's dangerous.
Oh yeah.
It is. I mean, I feel so much. Most of my top waters, I've got a whole box somewhere. I've switched them all to inline, J hooks, and with clients, I use them most of the time just because it's easier to unhook the fish. Pat's right. I think you do catch more fish, get more bites on a treble hook top water, but the ones that do get it, you do keep a hold of them a lot better. You lose a lot less fish, and like I say, when you get them to the boat, they're so much easier to unhook and get off the lure than they are
and
with a
get
treble
out of
hook.
the net.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to get them out of the net, and you're pretty much obligated to net them unless you got a catch and release customer, and or
Right.
if you have a catch and release, you're the one with the pliers going down after 3 treble or 2 treble hooks, whatever you set
Yeah.
up. And it's a lot safer for releasing fish as well as putting them in the boat.
And that was the whole reason for the inline, really started to hold on, is because people were trying to take care of the fish a little better. Trebles are rough on fish. Typically you got one in the mouth and the other one's hooked somewhere back in the cheek or on the top of the head, in the eyes. It doesn't happen with the inline hooks nearly as much.
That's right.
So it's a little bit, it's better for the fish if you're going to be releasing
It's
them.
more user friendly for the fish, and it's more user friendly for you because it's safer and easier to remove them.
And to switch them out, I mean, there's a lot of companies that are making them now, where you can buy them right off the shelf. But I mean, if you go in, you can buy the hooks. I mean, several companies make the inverted eyes, so you can put them on, and then you just have to buy split ring and split ring pliers. Unless you're very patient and can do it by hand, but buy
Yeah.
split ring pliers.
Yeah, for
and,
sure.
And you can do 8-10 lures in 25-30 minutes.
And if you'll get your tackle dealer to buy you a large pack. It's not 100, but a 25 pack of those hooks usually cuts the price in half.
Oh yeah.
That don't want to buy them in those little 3 or 4 packs at a time. They're way too expensive. Try to, I think Gamakatsu sells them in 25 packs. And I've forgotten if it's Mustad or VMC or Owner.
I think it's VMC
Eric sells them, meaning Mirror. LNS sells them in a 25 and a 5 pack, I think. And but beef them up. Go ahead and use the larger ones and expect to catch the fish that you're after. If you're throwing a top water bait, you're not fishing for little fish. You're fishing for bigger fish.
Yeah,
so go ahead.
I typically put either a 3 or a 4 out on them.
I'd run a 4.
Yeah, is what I always run, just depending on the size of the lure. Like the Top Dog Juniors and that kind of stuff, I'll use the 3 out, and then if I go to the She Dog or the He Dog or something like that, I'll put the 4 outs on them.
All right, what's your favorite color pattern? While we're talking about it, we're going into this season. What you got? I'll give you 3 colors.
Oh, man.
And give you 3 colors.
This feels like the old days back working the construction over there at Keaton Beach.
Hey.
3 colors of what?
3 colors of top water.
Oh,
stick
top water.
bait.
Okay.
And give me brand. I know you're going to throw it. I know you're throwing Top Dogs, or are you throwing Top Dog Juniors?
I actually like the She Dog, and then I like the Juniors. Top Dog Junior. So I'm not sure the number of the colors, but I like the silver and black, silver sides, black back.
All right.
I like the old reliable gold side, orange belly, black back.
808.
Yep.
Or
And then bone white.
bone white.
It's hard to beat a bone white.
Yeah. And that silver one over probably the last month and a half, because I'm like you, I throw top waters just because I like to.
Right.
And when you get the hits, you find fish.
Right.
But what I've found, I used to traditionally always throw bone, bone or white. And I wound up when the ballyhoo really started to show up good, the silver sided one was lights out, more hits. I mean, just
Now,
5,
you
6 to
talking
1.
chrome, or you talking about this just his scales?
Just the scale sided.
White belly, black back, and I think that's a number. It's 18.
I'm not sure the number, but it's.
Not
I mean, the
11.
chrome works fine through the chrome yesterday, and I mean, by the time I was done with it, it was missing paint.
Okay.
So they were knocking it around good, but I think
Right.
it's just those ballyhoo, when they're looking up at them, they're seeing that silver side, that shiny side. So
Mhm.
I think that's why they're eating that silver and chrome sided ones a lot better. And the She Dog comes in a lot of chrome.
What's your favorite, Kenny?
Skitterwalt.
I know that. It's
So
I knew
you did say what bait?
that's
So
right.
I
So
gotta say Skitterwalt.
We got Rapala over here, and we got LNS over here. And which one? I know the bone we said, is that your number one?
No, my number 1 is the 808.
808. All right. Orange, orange
Gold.
belly and gold and black back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my go-to. And then of course the either green or blue back silver mullet, which is the back doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
All right.
It's more
that silver
that
side.
silver side. That would be second. One that often gets forgotten that I do use quite a bit is the clear spook.
In the super spook or the Zara spook?
I have both actually. So it all depends on what they want. Yeah.
Well, I've got one that's discontinued. That's my favorite on the spooks, which is the big super spook, and it's clear with an orange coach side, or what do they call it, coach dog or whatever. I can't say it now, but anyway, it's got the barring on it, and
That clear, it works.
It's deadly. That clear with that orange and yellow that I've got. But my favorite mirror lure is She Dog as well, and I
like
throw the
She Dog.
Blecho. Blecho is what I call it. Blue, black, orange side, and chartreuse sides, and orange belly. And so I get the orange belly all throw. But now my second favorite is the sheep up, the little dog, the little one in the dog, not in the
top
junior.
pup.
Top pup.
Top pup.
Okay, top pup, and that's in the 808 or the orange black over. I've caught more trout on it. I've caught more reds on the blue Blecho, the blue, chartreuse, and orange. And it's a deadly. Now I like the bone, chartreuse bone.
Mhm.
But bone was always my go-to for years, but you know, it's
Well,
808's hard to beat, especially
It
where I
is.
fish most of the time.
if you and I for years did the shows with the Cajun Thunder Company with the Precision Tackle, and I did the dealer shows, and I'd always go over and ask the Pradco people who build now, who own Heddon, and they own they own most of them. But anyway, what's your top selling spook? And it's bone.
Bone.
It's been
Mhm.
bone for 25 years, and it never changes. And that's for freshwater, saltwater. They sell more bone than anything. It's their top seller.
So when I met with Pradco this year at ICAST, sat down and had a meeting with him. He told me that their number one seller is still
Mhm.
bone.
I think it's because you can see it. When you throw it out there, you can see that bait no matter where it's at. Any condition, you can always see that bait.
Now Pradco, you know, he kind of looked at me like I was a little crazy at first when I was talking to him because
You knew
they're-
him well.
Right.
Knew him well.
they really don't have a lot of saltwater products or marketed towards saltwater.
Right. They're used in saltwater, just not made.
Right. And that's what I was telling him. He's like, you know, I don't understand. Why are you interested in the particular products that I was
Mhm.
interested in? I said, because they're awesome.
Yeah.
Redfish and trout baits in the winter.
Right.
So we'll talk about those in the winter, but
Well, Rapala was another company. I mean, you know, I threw, you know, the shad wraps and X wraps
Mhm.
and everything. I mean, those were some of the best saltwater baits I'd ever used. You know, even just the Rapala minnow. I mean, I never used anything but that growing up for catching snook. I mean, they'd only last for, you know, 3 days once you threw them in the saltwater, but
Right.
I mean, my God, everything ate them.
Right.
And like I said, then that shad wrap came out, and then the X wrap, and you know now they've obviously transitioned, but I mean it was amazing.
you being from Pasco County, I don't know if you'll remember this lure. This is my favorite topwater lure of all time. It was something called a Trader Bay. It was a wood
Wooden one.
topwater. Yeah.
I've got some.
Do you really?
Yeah, the one they had like the narrow front, and then they kind of got
Yep.
fatted. Yep.
Yep.
I've got some over in my garage somewhere.
Yeah. Those, I don't know who made those or why they quit making them. They're
No.
freaking awesome.
No, well, the one I used to always love, not to get off subject, but Mirror Lure made a needlefish.
Mm-hmm.
You remember it? It was
I
it was about 6 inches, and it was about as big around as that thing there. It had a little weight on the tail, you know, just built
Mhm.
right into it, and it would sit just like that in the water,
Boone built
It-
one.
and it would just dart. And I mean, we caught more redfish on that stinking bait, and you know, they just quit
Boone
making.
Boone built was the only one I remember other than the Mirror Lure one, but it was
That was the one that actually looked like a needlefish.
yes, it
Yes.
looked like a needlefish. I'd say it was 8 inches long.
Yeah, my grandfather had one of them. I remember seeing it in the tackle box.
I had one, and something took it away from me, but before I got in the guide business back out of Keaton, but it looked just like one, and it didn't fish as well as I wanted it to. Really, it didn't have the action that I was after. But like I said, I bass fished with Zara spooks for years before they made the super spooks, and I always wanted them to sit in the water
On a
about
little
like
angle.
this, a low angle. I didn't want that.
No.
If he stood up on his nose, I couldn't get him to take it. But if it sat like that, and I would go into Kmart and grab all of them they have and take them in the bathroom and fill stuffed paper in the sink and put them in there. And one time the manager, the Swartz
See which ones you
came
wanted
in. He
to
says, "I don't know
buy."
what you're doing. I don't care as long as you put them all back in the box and they're dry." So I was running the air dryer, and one after another guy would come in there to use the bathroom for normal purposes and look at me like, "Oh my God, this guy is drying lures." You know, but I did. That's the way I bought them. If it was like that. And the old Zell Rolling, we fish in for spotted bass, and it made all the difference in the world of how it sat in the water.
Yeah.
You couldn't walk them. Well, they didn't walk if they sat like that.
Let me ask you this. So we're probably gonna come back on in 2 weeks, right? That's what
Yeah.
the plan is. What color plastic do you feel you'll be using the most in the next 2 weeks?
I'll be throwing Stinky Pink because I can catch fish on it just about any time. and Assassins 5-inch Stinky Pink. You know, if I go offshore later in the year, I'll throw Pink Ghost. But right now, Stinky Pink, and I'll be throwing Chicken on a Chain. It's hard to beat. It's got everything going on it.
Yeah, my two will probably be Laguna Shrimp and Chicken on Chain. But as we move further along, it'll be Watermelon Slice.
Yeah, and then for me it just depends where I'm at. So once the fish go in the creeks, you know, and sit around the mouths of the creeks and in the creeks, where you know I'll go to like Golden Brim, and you know I'll go to the more dark natural colors when I'm in the creeks. If I stay,
that's when I switch to the Watermelon Slice.
Yeah, when I start moving on, you know, if they're still on the outside a little bit, if I'm fishing the outer edges, you know, I'll go with the Chicken on Chain, you know, those colors like that, where I still got a little bit of chartreuse on the tail. But like I said, I've always, especially in the airboat, you know, the dark colors in those creeks just, you know, always work better. There's times it just doesn't matter.
So someone is asking what Chicken on Chain is, and I believe I have a picture. I'm going to see if I can pull it up just to show.
Well, if you don't have a picture, I'll tell you what it is. I asked Robbie to build it back years ago. I asked him, I said, what is the number one fish catching and number one selling Zoom worm color? And it's watermelon red. And it was for 20 years. Every time I went to the shows, I went by Zoom and asked them that. And then I said, what's the number one selling DOA, Mark Nichols DOA shrimp? And guess what? It's Glow. And so what's the brightest color in the spectrum of, in the
color spectrum?
No, in the fluorescent spectrum. So the natural light color is a green back with the red glitter. That's the natural light. The phosphorescent color is Glow, and it has a fluorescent chartreuse tail. So you're covering all three of the light spectrums at one time on one bait. And I think Robbie waited about 7 years before he built it, and then he built it. But that's why it's such a fish catching fool, because regardless of which one, you're eliminating three situations. You're giving them all three light spectrums at once. And the Chicken on a Chain, the name is that of a rodeo cow, a rodeo bull, was named Chicken on a Chain back in the 90s when we built it, or in the 2000s, I've forgotten. I think the bait's about 15 years old, might be 20 years old.
And just about every bait company in the world has knocked it off.
That's right.
It's got to be one of that and Electric Chicken got to be about the two most popular colors out there.
All right, we'll see if this will upload, and I'll show you exactly what I was using on Friday. Oh, it will not. There's been an issue with this website.
It hates you.
It does not like you tonight.
And
Robbie made a color. I don't know if he still makes. I think he still makes. It's called Mama's Chicken.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which that is another one that I really, really like.
That's got the chartreuse tail as well.
Yeah, it's a little more brown.
So you guys can see in that picture right there, that is the little P&V and Chicken on Chain rigged with a 4/0 J hook under a popping cork. That's exactly what I was catching him on Friday.
Yeah, it seems like Chicken on Chain's got a little more green in it, and then the Mama's Chicken has more brown in it.
So we have a few more comments we'll hit real quick. Pat, Bob Pennington says hello, and he's heading down tomorrow.
Well, good, Bob. I know what y'all are going to throw. You're going to throw a red fin, and then you're going to throw a red fin. And when you're not throwing a red fin, you're going to throw a red fin.
Probably not tomorrow or Saturday.
Well, you can just throw
He's
it up
going
in
to throw
the
them
air.
downwind.
You can just throw them up in the air with your hand, open the bail, and they'll be out there 100 feet. You know it's supposed to blow a foul slick. Somebody, Nate Lazut, well, I can't say it, has Copperhead and Butt Naked have been working well for me between Horseshoe and Swanee. Well, guess what Copperhead and Butt Naked have in common with Chicken on a Chain? They all have a chartreuse tail.
Yep.
I assume you're throwing the 5-inch, Nate. Let us know. But anyway.
So speaking of that area, it's been on fire down there.
Right. But between Horseshoe and Swanee.
Yeah, it's been on fire. Really, really good fishing right now.
I'm hoping everything kind of moves north.
Yeah.
Wait
So
a minute.
Nick Brandon,
That's a good question. Ask it. Go ahead. Read
Nick
it.
Brandon says, thanks guys. Another question: on any given day, what makes you decide between throwing something like a paddle tail / shad style bait and something like a DOA / shrimp imitation?
Well, first of all, let's be clear. We don't throw DOA. None of us do. We're not in the Mark Nichols Club. But if I was going to change between the two, it would be when the water was gin clear. If you're going to use a complete shrimp shape, the silhouette of a shrimp, whether it's Robbie's shrimp cocktail or his so-and-so's DOA or Billy Bob's made by, what's his name?
Live target.
Yeah, no, or live target. Anyway, a
Voodoo
natural
shrimp.
shrimp would be something that you'd probably put under a cork or you'd throw unweighted because you're going to let him look at it. It's an inspection bait rather than a reaction bait. The paddle tail is a reaction bait, and the reason for the paddle tail is usually we're in some colored water with a little color in it because we need the vibration of that tail. We're all talking about fishing straight tails that we have lately because our water was clean enough to where we wanted a larger silhouette in the dark water, and we wanted the brightest tail we could get, so we threw the chicken on chain or what you were throwing. I've forgotten, but bright is so. And so if you're windy and it's blowing, there's no point in putting a DOA on there because they're never going to get to see all those pretty little legs and eyes and tail shape just
You
right.
gotta fish it too fast.
Yeah, you got to fish it quicker and then move it through the water, and there's not enough light for that fish to see the difference. So save your DOA shrimps and your more expensive shrimp shaped lures for those dead slick, calm days where the water is Caribbean clear or Caribbean clear, depending on which side of the tracks you were on, you were raised on. That about cover it.
So one thing
Go ahead.
to talk about right now, current conditions, we have some negative tides.
Mhm.
We have some wind that is holding that water out. So you have the negative tide, that outgoing, it's holding the water out, and it just comes rushing in super fast. And what happens? The water gets all stirred up, nasty, dirty. So that's something else to consider.
Mhm.
Not only that, it narrows down your optimal bite
Your
window.
bite time, yeah. What I always with the way I always determined what bait I wanted to throw. If I was fishing schools of mullet, schools of ballyhoo, something like that, a lot of times I would throw paddle tails
Mhm.
because you're throwing into a lot of movement, and in order for them to find your bait, you need, just like I say, you need that vibration for that paddle tail. And they're looking, if there's a predator around them, typically they're on the redfish will be under the mullet. So if you've got some depth, you can throw a stick bait and let it get under it. I call them stick baits, just the straight plastic, and let them get under it, and the reds will find them. If there's
fluke,
the fluke type baits.
Go ahead.
If it's a shallow, if you're in 2 foot of water in a big mullet school, I would always just have done better on paddle tails. And the DOA shrimp and those, all those, like Pat said, all those shrimp silhouette patterns. I like them. The only time I ever really use them is if I'm stationed up on a corner with a lot of current and a lot of rock or something like that, causing some disruption in the water, where I'm going to throw that up current and let it sweep
let it
around.
drip.
Yeah, I'm going to fish it just like live bait.
Yep.
And you're going to twitch it a little bit and that kind of stuff, but you're mainly going to let it just flow with the current and look like what it is coming in them. That's really the only time I ever use that style bait, because I don't like to fish that slow.
Now I do like the assassin shrimp.
Oh yeah,
Because
that's what I call the shrimp cocktails.
yeah, it doesn't have as much going on.
Right.
It's more.
Well, it's more a bait. It's not that it's the
I
same.
catch a lot of flounder on it.
You can fish it like you fish a gulp. You can put
Right.
it on a jig head and you can fish it.
Yep.
The DOAs, the live targets, the voodoos, that kind of stuff. They're made to be fished weightless, basically.
Right.
A little bit of weight, but
Now,
they're made to drift.
I don't know if you've tried one yet, but Four Horsemen has I think it's called a boom boom shrimp.
Mhm.
Have you seen them?
Mm-mm.
I need to bring one. I'll bring one in 2 weeks. It's a smaller profile, about like that,
Yep.
under that popping cork.
boom boom.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'll tell you the one. So I know Mark pretty well, and he came out with that little 2-inch DOA shrimp.
Yep.
And there are times, and I haven't used them up here because I haven't had to, because these fish just eat up here. But there's times you find schools of fish that won't eat, and we would throw those little bitty 2-inch shrimps into those schools of fish, and you would catch fish on them.
Right.
When you wouldn't, the 3.5 or the 4-inch shrimp, you wouldn't catch them on that little, which is typical. If you downsize your baits, a lot of times
Right.
you're going to catch more fish. But
Well, when that is strange looking bait. Now tell them what it is.
That's the 4 Horsemen Boom Boom Shrimp.
Well, we used to take when Bill Hall built the first bait, it was called Equalizer, and it was not weighted. And we would take the DOA shrimp and take the hook that Mark had out of it because it was nickel, and it was nickel painted. It was nickel plated, and it was slick, so it would the bait would slide off of it. So we got rid of that hook, and we got a little Mustad. I think it was 3174, and it was a short shank bronze hook.
right through the nose.
And we go through the nose on it, and then I would take the weight out of it, and we would put it under the equalizer and throw it out there and say, and they would kill it. I mean, kill it, because it dropped so slow when you just nose hook it and took the weight, what is it, that little insert weight he had, that stick in weight or whatever. And I used to cut that weight in half and put it back in there so that it would have just enough to settle down. And we caught a lot of fish back in the 90s with that. But then when I got on with the Assassin, I, quit throwing DOAs.
Yeah,
But they certainly would catch fish. But again, we were throwing a calling to the surface in gin clear water. We were fishing with a foot and a half, 2 feet of water over that grass. It was a shallow water system for me.
Yeah, and that's how I always fish the DOA. Like I said, I was never a finesse slow fisherman. Where I could just throw it in there and just let it go. Yeah, I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of the pop and cork, stuff under the equalizer with the shrimp, and it just worked. It was the perfect bait for it.
Right.
There wasn't anything else around that you could do that with.
Well, your hookup ratio, if you chin hook them, your hookup ratio will triple right off the bat. And it drops like a shrimp would. It comes down with that weighted forward. Like I said, I'm sure it'll catch just as many fish as it used to. But I had a different boat then, and I fished in some shallower water as a general rule than I do now in my Parker. Or I could fish in that shallow
I'll tell you
water.
something. DOA I used to use a lot growing up was the Terrorize.
Yeah, I was
And
never a Terrorize fan.
I got away from them. I don't
Yeah.
use them anymore. But
Well, if you're going to use a finesse bait, understand that it's about the weather and it's about the clarity of the water. You're competing with Mother Nature when you have to pull out that fancy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a backup that's good to know. But we generally just move the boat. I'm going to go look for what matches my system.
Yes,
that I have.
I'm
my
going to go
confidence.
fish where I think I can catch fish.
Yeah, but you're going to use your confidence rigs,
Yes,
your
exactly.
rigs that you have confidence in. So if you fish the DOA, then certainly enjoy it. But when you go to bouncing a regular bait, if you put a DOA in our water with those little legs on it, the pinfish are going to drive you crazy. So you don't want all those appendages sticking out, all that little diddly diddly. I don't throw
not for at least another month.
Yeah.
I don't throw a curly tail worm. I mean, a curly tail
Yeah.
grub of anybody's, and never have, because of the pinfish.
You won't have it.
If you don't have pinfish where you fish, then throw a curly tail. Use all the attraction you can get. But the DOA, I couldn't afford them at any price because of the pinfish pecking everything off of anything that they'll fit in their mouth. They'll bite. They'll bite it off. Excuse me.
They will. If they were 5 pounds, you couldn't swim in the water.
So Tommy Tyrone says 808 catch 5.
That's a great bait.
I don't use the catch 5 a lot.
The catch 5 is a big bait that has a different drop rate than most any of the others, and I know that's why he uses them. He's fishing for big fish with that catch 5, and the 808 couldn't be a better color.
Yeah, that color is.
Now, a couple more months, I'll be using catch 2000 quite a bit. In
Yeah.
the 808.
Well,
we need some We need quite a few cold fronts before that happens.
They're coming.
Oh yeah.
They're coming.
And then James Griffin says KVD Strike King Sexy Dog is top tier trout top water.
So it's like you were hitting at it. Everybody has their favorite, and especially with top waters, you work. It's all in how you work them.
Right.
I mean, I'll sit there when I'm doing it and I'll throw it. 4 different casts. I'll work it 4 different ways to see what raises a reaction. And once the confidence that we have in those baits is for me. It's I don't know. I'm just a little AD, whatever it is, ADA, whatever.
ADHD.
Yeah. But I mean, it literally, I'll throw a lure for a week and, catch fish every time. And then all of a sudden have a bad day with it. And I won't use it again for 3 months.
Are you punishing it or you?
I don't know.
I will tell you the top water I've been using quite a bit lately is the Yo-Zuri.
Yeah. You were using that the other day. They work good. And getting back to the point I was
Using
making.
that peanut butter shuffle or
No gold.
I just think it's, when you like a bait, you like the way it looks and you like the way it works and you're working it, you're looking at that bait because every time we're working at top water, you're like, oh, here he comes. And if you're not saying that, you're going to change baits. So it's.
How many casts do you make before you change?
Do I make?
Or do you
I'll
just-
make a lot of casts. Typically, I won't change. I may change once a day with top waters.
See, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I'm too impatient. When I pull my plugs out, I'm gonna throw 5 casts, and if I don't catch a fish, I'm changing. 5 casts, I'm changing. 5 casts, I'm changing until I hit. Now, when I hit, I may refine it. Doesn't mean I'm gonna lock in and stay with it, but you got to find the color with it, and to have your color tied on when you leave the driveway is a mistake.
Yeah.
Depending on your water and depending on how much you fish. Now, Greg has been on the water guiding for 30 years, close to.
Yeah.
So he's going to stay with the color. He's picked that color, but he has confidence in it. And if they're going to bite, they're going to bite this, is what he figures. And I'm that way when it comes to plastic. That stinky pink, it's going to be the first thing I throw. And if I don't get a hit on it, I will assume, okay, I need to move the boat. And it will find fish for me because it's so good. When Robbie built it, I said, this is the best one you've made in since I've known you, since we did Electric Chicken. And he laughed, and it is. It is a dumbed down candy corn with a glow in it. I mean, not glow. What is it? Sparkle, whatever.
Oh, the glitter.
Yeah, but it's not glitter. It's pearl. It's got
Oh, yeah.
pearlized in the color.
Pearlescence.
And that pearlescence is just like a mirror lure. There are only 3 top water mirror lures that have a pearl belly as opposed to a white belly. And once you discover the difference, you'll never go back to a white belly.
So I will say this, and you hit on it the other day when we were on the boat. One reason I like the skitter walk so much is I like to work a top water in rough water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not one of these that wants it slick as glass throwing top water. I want.
Right.
Yeah.
Me too.
And I mean, I'll throw in some rough water.
Yeah. Yeah. And it sits high enough. I'll throw, if it's rough, I'll throw a skitter walk just to keep it up above the waves. A lot of the mirror lures sit down in the water a little more. So when you get those waves, they'll start to dive in. But the thing I've also noticed too, the difference between the 2 baits is you hook more fish on the mirror lure stuff sitting lower in the water because the fish don't have to, the Rapala sits up high. So they got to get up above it, where the mirror lure, they can come up under it and still get most of the bait.
And it's sitting lower in that calmer water when most people like to throw top water.
Yeah.
There's an advantage to that.
Well,
without a doubt.
I like the soup. I go to the Super Spook over the mirror lure because it is a bigger target and it walks better in that rough weather.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That
sure.
Super Spook Junior.
Which the She Dog
is
was
for
designed
slick back.
to float higher, and it does. It works a
It
little
does.
better in rough
Right.
water.
The She Dog.
And
works better.
I like to work a top water fast,
Mhm.
and that skitter walk works.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you can walk.
It's a good lure.
You can. I don't think you can walk it too fast to ruin the action.
Yeah, it's a good lure.
Hey, Brian Volberg. Let's see. Evening, man.
What's the question about depth or tide for trout lake?
Oh, wait. I did skip one we need to go back to. said, I forget who it was, asked any advice, Tommy Tyrone, any tips for Carabel? Pretty much the same.
Drive east.
Yeah.
Come over here.
Watch for rocks. Let's see. Any specific depth or tide for the trout lately? They're all over. It's transition month. Fished every type of bottom, depth, and tide, and haven't had much success.
What are you fishing with?
Yeah, I mean that's
You can't believe, I can't believe you fished all different depths and didn't find any. It must be what's on the end of the stick. Specific depth or tide. Well, I would say if you have 3 feet, if you wrap 3 feet, meaning 2 to 4, you ought to run into the trout. And tide, the second half of the incoming, don't start at fish low and don't fish the fall until you fish the incoming on the other side of it, and then fish 2 hours of the fall and go home. My bite has not been, wait a minute, I'm fishing deeper water than
no.
they
I
are.
wasn't saying anything.
No.
Both of them fish the 1 to 3, and I'm fishing 3 to 4. So that's my rule. If you've got a boat and you're not in there running a trolling motor, beating the banks, and you're not skinny. If you're skinny, they like the fall better. Go ahead, Kenny.
Yeah, I was going to say
Greg?
where I've been finding most of the trout is, probably 2 hours into the incoming, around the tips of all the bars. If you can get, where water flows around the edge of the bars and, still not quite covering the bar, or it's just covering the bars. They seem to sit on those deeper ends.
Which is more about the water movement.
Yeah, it is. It's moving over structure, and it's the water movement through that structure. And those trout, I think, are getting to the point where they're in, so they're starting to look for food in there, and those are obviously, feeding stations.
One thing we haven't touched on is you really don't see the reds on those schools of bait fish.
No.
They're eating crustaceans.
Yeah. Or they're just roaming. I'm not sure that they've, I think if the water temperature would get to a point, that it's not 84 one day, 76 the next, I think you would get to a point where they would settle down and they'd start feeding on the available, schools of bait around them. We're
about 2 weeks away from that.
Yeah.
Looking at the 30-day forecast, we're about 2 weeks. We'll start having some nights in the 50s.
Yeah.
Well, back to your question. If you're fishing shallower, then what you want is anything after the first third of the incoming.
Yeah.
Because that's where usually your curve's bringing you the water. I like to have a foot to 2 feet of water over the fish for me and on trout. So I'm looking at on the curve, regardless, if you don't have a 2.5 foot of water difference in low and high, you're not going to have as good a success on trout anyway. Now, we were fortunate enough to fish this charter with 3 captains, and we had 3.4. We had 3.5 feet of water movement in the 6 hour period. Well, do the math, convert it to inches, and you got 40 inches divided by 6. You can see how much water flow you have per hour. And if you don't have that flow per hour, you don't expect an extended bite or as good a bite. So that's what you have to start with, is having a good tide range, and the range is from the low to the high. If you fish in the fall and that's your preference and you're better at it, you still need the range of the flow, because you need the oxygen to give those fish the impetus to feed. They're not going to feed without the oxygen provided in the current of the incoming or outgoing tide, regardless. So look at your charts before you plan your trip, and your tide chart or your tide app, and choose those days if you can. And then, of course, match the hatch. You're not going to throw a pinfish this big in 2 feet of water and expect a trout to hit it. So use your smaller baits. Kenny was killing fish on the P&V, and he fished over 2 miles of coast. So it wasn't about where he was. He had found the secret. The secret was depth. He had I'd guess around 2 feet of water,
About 2 feet.
and he's throwing P and V under a cork, so he's calling the fish to the cork to the bait. He's not expecting a bite that's good enough just to throw a jig out and catch fish. Bang, bang, bang. So use the variation in jigs. The jig and cork method is what to find fish with, and then if you want to slow down and throw a plug or a plastic without it, do it. But put the cork on to find the right
rotate
area.
'em.
And once you find the right area, it means how far off the hill are you, sometimes is more important than the depth that you're in. Don't lock in on 2 feet or 3 feet. Let the fish tell you, but be in water that you have confidence in fishing in, and work with the tide as it comes in and work back out with it as it goes out. That sounds simple, but many people miss the boat on that.
Well, speaking of depth, as we get later into the fall and winter, depth is relative to where you're at. I mean, it's not so much about the depth of water, because we're transitioning
Correct.
from these flats into some
Creeks.
and even troughs.
Yeah.
So although I may be in a foot of water, I may be going across a trough that drops down to
6 foot.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, the depth, though, with the cork, the depth becomes his strike point, what he's
Right.
willing to do. So when you run a cork, you're going to find out where these fish are willing to feed, but they may not come up and take the top water bait, and they may not chase a jig for you.
Right.
And so the cork holds the bait out there longer. The presentation is extended, which should extend your bite.
and even though my leader was longer than the depth I was fishing, that's why I went to weightless to keep it up
cover
and
it
then
and flutter.
slowly flutter.
Mhm.
Split ring pliers are not created equally. That's correct.
Very true.
The best ones are the Australian ones that.
The ones you gave me.
I'll think of them. Yeah, I'll think of the name about on the way home.
Mhm.
Anyway, what's the name of the
I can't think.
damn thing? What's the name of the lure they high speed troll? Halco.
Halco.
There you go. The high speed Halco tremblers that they use for
Wahoo.
Wahoo is where I can remember the name. But if you get you a package of you get you a pair of the Halco, you'll
Split
never
ring
go
pliers.
split ring. You'll never go back to the ones that have to get the little end in
Yeah.
there. You just pinch it, pops it open, you're going.
Yeah.
They're about $25, and they're
And worth every penny.
They're worth it.
So here's a couple of comments from Tommy Tyrone again. We always fish 6 feet in Keaton and Spring Warrior areas.
Then you're going to catch your fish there.
Tommy. That's all you're fishing.
That's all we can tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's asking how long of a leader is best.
Best for.
That's all relative.
Okay. Well, here's what I do. On live bait, I'm fishing 32, 34 inches. On artificial, however, the fish is not necessarily willing to strike a short leader in deep water because it's in between the column. There's too much light, and he doesn't believe it. So you may need to lengthen your leaders. I have gone up to as much as 45 inches.
I went as much as 6 feet
in deep water, but that's with plastic on there. The trout is more willing to come up and get a live fish halfway through the column, but ideally let your leader length present your bait in the lower third of the column of water you're fishing in. If you're fishing in 6 feet, you want at least a 4 foot leader, so it drops you down in that lower. 4+ would be better. If you're in 4 feet of water, then give yourself a 3 foot leader, so you're in the lower third of the column. Most fish are not going to feed up in hot water weather, not going to come up to the top of the column and take a bait. So don't ask them to. The other thing to do is tie you up 3 leaders, 118, 128, 138.
And see which one gets
Throw them and find out which one he wants.
Yep.
Don't listen to Captain.
That's
Pat.
the easiest way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Throw different depths, throw different lures. and
Most
see
of the
what
time
works.
I'm around 2.5 feet.
Yeah.
But
What's manageable to you to make a decent cast is more important than the prescription.
yeah.
Right.
If you can't throw a 3 foot leader well, and you don't get out there over 60 feet from the boat, you're cutting off your nose to spite your face. go back to a 2-foot leader that you can send out there 60, 80 feet.
So Leaf has a question that I skipped over, not intentionally. I saw it and then we bounced around. See, like just now, it just went away again. And this is for you and Greg, Pat. Leaf wants to know if y'all are using Salt Strong.
Don't
just the gigs.
don't hardly know what it is.
See, that's why everybody loves Leaf.
So, I will say this. I will say this. One time I had someone book me and we were fishing on his boat in an area where he normally fishes, which is south of here quite a bit. And I was on some fish pretty good at the time there. And we get out there and we're catching fish. I mean, it's like every cast we're catching fish. Next thing I know, he pulls out the Salt Strong app and he says, well, this app says we need to be over there. We need to go over there. So I just keep casting. We're catching fish. And he says it one more time. I said, well, we're catching fish right now, right? Well, yeah. So then he says it one more time. He says, well, this app says we need to be over there. I said, okay, we can go over there. We're going to miss the bite here. I mean, it's on right now. Well, it says we need to be over there. It might be better there. We went over there, didn't get a bite.
Well, now there's a difference in Kenny and I, folks. I would have told the guy something very unpleasant. And my unpleasantness would be about if you don't have enough sense to realize you're on a good bite, I'm not taking you over there unless I push you out of the boat when I get there, and I'm going to leave you there because I'm not that nice. I'm not going to let you talk me off of my fish. So the point is, those apps are fine if you don't know your butt from a hole in the ground. When it comes to fishing, if you have no idea what you're doing, you need to hire a guide and shut up
and listen
and learn from us. We can teach you so much more in one day than you can learn from all the apps out there. I don't care whose they are. I'm not cutting Salt Strong. They may be wonderful and they may be put you on fish. They may teach you, but you can't learn to fish from an app. You just can't do it. And you're not going to get better at fishing with an app. You're going to learn some of the basics. Oh, that's fine. But what you can learn from Greg or Kenny or I will be so much worth your money, and you won't have to subscribe to We Don't Know Our Butt from a Hole in the Ground group. You want to stay in the club? That's what they want you to do. They want you to learn from an app instead of actually going fishing.
And there you go, Leaf.
I will say this. They are some marketing geniuses.
They are. They've done well, and they sold it for a fortune.
It's just
they're
like
retired and living life well now.
But, Taylor might have a point. Maybe it's because I wasn't throwing the Slam Shady.
Well, I've never even gone to the site of Salt Strong, but I understand that it is a teaching tool that may be advantageous to some people, but
there's some good content on there. I will say that.
But there's so much more to learn from one day on the water with a good quality guide, and you're looking at 3 of them. There are plenty of us out there, but the point is, each port has their preferential colors and plastics and this and that and whatever. But we all fish the same water sets, and we have 3 different mindsets on how we fish. So you can learn something from Kenny you wouldn't learn from me, something from me you wouldn't learn from Greg, something from Greg that the 2 of us would not necessarily know. And that's invaluable because you don't get better at fishing by yourself. It's like pool or tennis. You play with somebody better than you, you're going to learn a different shot and a different technique. And that's what fishing with guides is really all about. It's not about personality until you decide to fish with us 2, 3, 4, 5 times. That means you enjoy fishing with us as a person, as opposed to a teacher or as opposed to an instructor. But I teach a lot on my boat. That's what I do because I'll be gone someday. And if something if I taught you, made you a better fisherman for the rest of your life, that's my legacy. I've left you some information that you otherwise wouldn't have gleaned from Salt Strong or another app.
There's going to be trout at your funeral. They're going to celebrate that. You know that, right? They're going to be like, thank God.
Well,
So I will say some of the techniques that I use was not taught. It was time on the water, getting
Yeah, it's just
frustrated,
stuff in-
trying something different, off the wall. That
And that's fishing. Anybody that goes out, anybody that's learning to fish, anybody that's having a hard time catching fish, if you go out, don't do the same thing. Do something completely different. If you didn't catch fish last time, don't do that again. You know, and
Right.
you know, there's times where, you know, like I said, for us, like I said, you go and you'll absolutely smoke them one day, and of course you'll go back to that spot and they're gone. And you know, that's I'm sure it's the same with every guide out there that's, you know, that's done this for any length of time. That's part of what I enjoy doing. You know, all of a sudden you got to figure it out again. However, you know, the guy that gets to fish 2-3 times a month, if it didn't work last time and you go back and do the same thing, if it's not working again, just do the opposite. Go, you know, if you're fishing deep, go in a little bit shallower. You know, if you're throwing jigs, throw top waters. You know, if you're throwing artificials, throw live bait. You know, just do something different and figure out what works.
Yep.
And then, you know, just build off that. That's how we all did it. I mean, we've all been
yeah.
fishing since we were old enough to walk. And, you know, it's all gone into your head. You know, you have a bank of knowledge to fall back on. So you know exactly, not exactly, but you know where to go when things go south. You have a direction.
Yep. And I do want to bring up, so Friday, we came back in and I trailered my boat home. So I loaded the boat on the trailer. There's a FWC biologist there, or survey taker there. She come up and asked me, were you on a charter or a fun trip? I said, I was on a charter. She says, oh, I can't use your information. She said, well, how'd you do? And I told her how we did. And she's like, she said, are you serious? I said, yeah. She said, and I said, all 3 boats did the same thing. I mean, we all did very well. And she said, I've only checked in 4 trout all day.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, we had 10 times that.
Yeah.
And it's not,
In 3 boats.
yeah.
And
It's not that, you know,
the fishery, that's, you know, what she was getting was not representative of what the fishery is doing.
but the bigger thing is, you know, there was a fair amount of boats out that
Mhm.
day that only brought back 4 trout.
Right. So they're getting a
it-
skewed picture of what's really going on.
Yeah, but not just that. If you're one of those people that didn't catch them, come see what we were doing on Friday. Come book us.
Yeah. And it's just one of those things that, like I said, if it ain't working, I mean, just if we go, I mean, I do it every day when you go out there. If you start out with a plan, I'm going to do this is how we're going to fish. And if it works, you stay with it all day. If it doesn't, you know, I mean, I'll give it an hour. You know, if I'm waiting on a little bit of water, I'll give it till it gets there. And if it doesn't happen, you know, it's just like yesterday. I mean, we scrambled. You know, I was waiting on water to get to a certain point. We did okay up until then. We got there and it didn't happen.
Right.
So we scrambled. You know, we finished out okay, but it wasn't. You know, it still wasn't a great day. But I mean, that's fishing. You know, some days you just have to do different things.
And the flip side, especially the longer you guide, you become more patient.
Yeah, you do.
Because you know the fish are there.
Yeah.
They're not eating, but you know they're there. And
You're
so
not
a lot
anxious.
of times I'm not going to move because I know they're there.
Yeah.
And I know they're going to eat.
Yes.
And if I leave and try to make a bite happen, then I miss that bite.
So the one thing I learned, and Pat's this is not degrading, this is a good compliment, is you have to be a good storyteller, because there's times you've got to just talk your way through 30 minutes and just without saying, just wait 30 minutes. You know, if you can talk your way through that 30 minutes and all of a sudden those fish start biting, you know, and it's part of being a good guide.
I'm not very patient. So what you would learn from me is I call it the discovery hour or the discovery time. If you don't look if you go fishing down here and you're not catching fish, that's your discovery hour. Move and learn something new. Pull out a new color, pull out a new lure, make a drastic or a real significant change in the depth that you're in, and throw something that you don't have confidence in and try something different. Now, what I call this is the punt. if I'm getting my butt beat after making 3 or 4 of these real changes, meaning I've changed depth, I've changed color of water, I've changed how far I am from the hill, and I've gone to humps, ridges, and troughs, then it's time to punt. Give them the ball. Run in either real shallow or run deep. I usually go real shallow and let them tell you what's going on. See if there's a bite. But don't do the same thing. Don't have a gulp, a Berkeley gulp shrimp in new penny tied on under a cork and expect to catch fish with a 3-foot leader every time you go in 4 to 5 feet of water. Do something drastically different. We have to. We just don't talk about the down days as much as we do the good days, because everybody wants to hear about how many fish you caught. They don't want to hear about how hard it was. But the way you beat it is to do something unpredictable, or something you get out of your comfort zone. If you get out of your comfort zone, you start learning what we already know, because we did that 15 years ago. And so we have very little times where we go, and throw our hands up. I mean, we know, like you say, you got to commit yourself to some water and wait on it. Kenny's more patient than I am. I'm not a good camper. I don't camp well at all. I leave and go try to learn something.
I'm not as good at it as Evan is.
During that period. Yeah. Captain Dave Malone, my buddy Dave Malone, will run the same drift for 4 hours and get his limit. But I can't stand it. I got to move. I got to change the picture on that GPS. I got to go somewhere else. But that's my ADHD. It hadn't gotten better. It hadn't gotten better. But it's taught me a lot. I've learned a lot about fishing by not being patient and not staying
a lot
in
of different scenarios.
Yeah, by checking out something else. And people think that we fish with pinfish and that's all we do. That's fine if you want to believe that, but I'm throwing plastic, and if I'm catching more fish, I did that the week before. I converted my people over to plastic because I was catching all the fish and they weren't doing well with the live bait.
And I think that's the week I was telling you I can't get them to eat a pinfish.
Well,
and guess what hasn't been on my boat since?
They had, well, that's a shame, because they'll eat a pinfish tomorrow when they get in that wind, when it's blowing 20 knots. They'll take it away out of your hand.
They can have it tomorrow at 30.
Okay.
You got to find some water to catch the pinfish tomorrow.
Right.
What's the highest number of keeper trout each of you had in one day in the last month?
Last month.
Caught-wise?
Caught wise?
Yeah.
I mean,
well, we brought in 15 and 2 reds that weighed 36 pounds. So, and quality is what I'm after. But now we threw back in 40 minutes. We needed 3 trout, I think, and we caught 8 keepers. So if you're talking about keepers, it was definitely Saturday.
I caught a bunch on Friday.
We had
15,
15.
the last month, this last week has been the best for numbers as far as keepers. I mean, it had been extraordinary. I know, to the south of us, they've been catching huge numbers.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, I probably had the other day, it was probably my best day. I probably had 25 keepers.
Yeah, we probably caught 25, 30 keeper fish on Friday.
I mean, we probably caught 40, but we had probably 25 keepers.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, to the south of us, I know they've been, Brent sent me a picture at like 9 o'clock on Sunday morning, and he had his limit plus 20 more already by 9 o'clock.
Yeah. I mean, I would say we probably caught every bit of 30 keepers on Friday.
Yeah. It's getting better. I mean, I like them when they get condensed down into the creek mouths and stuff a little more. That's when you really get the big numbers. But, I mean, I know you'll find them out there in those big schools just waiting for Pat.
All it's about is the reason that these fish are moving into shallow water. And they're going to move into shallow water to feed up for the winter. They have an urge that's almost as strong as their urge to reproduce. And that urge is coming in the 70s. It's not going to be in the 80s. Mm-hmm. So that's why these fish don't know whether they're riding a bicycle or going to Cincinnati. They don't know which way to go. And so right now it's kind of certain percentage of them, we don't know how many are still out there, and they don't know where the bank or the hill is because they haven't sensed the cool water to move. But the other thing is that the pelagic bait normally come through our area from the west, and as they move south, they move into that cooler water, and the fish follow them. Otherwise, the trout wouldn't know to go shallow. And so that's what these reds are good at, is finding that bait and taking advantage of the bait stirring the water up is why the reds are there. The mullet stir the water up and spook the crabs, and they eat the crabs. None of the reds that I cleaned for the last 3 trips, which would be 9 reds, had any fish in them because they don't eat fish until it gets cold and they can't catch a crab. So they'll follow that bait because of the stirring in the water, whether it's ladyfish, jacks, whatever.
Buffet.
But when that water's torn up, those fish will be, those schools of reds will be in that. They're not going to be in that gin clear water. They're not going to hang around for you if they are. So you're looking for stained water. You're looking for some color in that stained water.
So
And
here's you got a question for you. Ryan Hall asked, why are the smaller pinfish hard to catch, Pat?
because your hook's too big. You mean you left off a word. Why are they hard to catch now? If you mean that, I'll answer that question. But being an English major, I've got to pick at you. Now, this year's class is that big, which is 4 inches long or 3 3/4, and you're wanting the 2 inches, and they're just simply not that many of them there. The general F class of pinfish, though, that are 2 years old, which are what we fish with, have gone from the size you want to here, and so most of them are not small. Now, it's been tough for me as well. I've had 4 to 1, 4 1/4 inch fish, and I'm talking about nose to scale, not nose to tail. But the little ones, you got to stay down that clear water, and you got to get in the right depth as that water's moving. I used a number 14 hook and found out from a buddy of mine, Captain Dave, found out by Colin Mustad that they quit building them 2 years ago. That's unfortunate for y'all that didn't buy them by 1,000 like I do, and I've got 600 of them. But they don't sell that hook anymore. So as I say, why is a hot dog that big around? Y'all know? So the bun will fit in your mouth. If the bun wouldn't fit, if the hook won't go in his mouth, you can't catch the little fish. Okay? If the hook won't go in his mouth, you can't catch the fish on it. So good luck. Some of the fly fishing people make hooks down to size number 24. So you can look in that venue, in that area for some little hooks. But the Mustang 3191 I've been using for close to 40 years, they're off the mark. They're building it in a size 12, which will catch you some small ones, but it's awful tough to catch him with a hook that won't go in his mouth.
Where you catch the smaller ones in a trap?
Traps are for people who have plenty of time on their hands, because you got to go out there and bait it, and then you got to wait for it, and then you got to say, oh, we caught all catfish today. Oh, we caught black sea bass today. Oh, we caught dogfish today.
I will say Rachel Gillum has a pinfish trap that catches small ones.
Yeah, I've never used them, but I've always thrown a net. So
my days of throwing a net are hopefully over.
Mine too.
Me too. My shoulder doesn't want to do it.
Yeah.
So
you can chum them. You can get them in the canal if you have a 1/2 inch wire trap. But if you don't have a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch wire, you're not going to catch little ones. The reason they're hard to catch, though, is because there are fewer of them this time of year. The trout and the other fish have eaten them down, the little ones. And now this is the survivor class.
all right, so Nick Brandon asked, what's the biggest trout any of you have caught in the last few weeks?
Probably that one I had the other day, that 4-pounder is probably 20. We measured him. He was like 23 3/4.
Yeah, I had 23.5
Yeah.
Yeah,
yesterday.
about 23. It's not time yet.
No, I haven't
It's not
had
time
any.
for the big
I've
ones
seen
yet.
a couple big ones, but we haven't hooked anything real big yet.
Yeah, about a week ago, I think it was about a week ago, Brandon, well, a week and a half, we went out just cruising, looking,
Mhm.
and I seen some big ones.
Yeah.
But go back the next day, they weren't there.
Yeah, it seemed last year November was the month for me when I caught a lot of big, nice 25-inch plus trout.
Yeah, November, early December, then again into February,
Yeah,
March.
once spring is when we caught the most big ones, but it was like I said, I didn't do any real big, noticeable gators until it was November.
All right, so be back on in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
And hopefully by then we'll have some temps dropping, some water temps stabilizing.
some good news. But it's coming. I mean, everybody waits for this time, and then it's like, oh, you just want it to happen. It's coming. It may be, like I said, we get one or two fronts. We got one coming through, tonight, tomorrow, and you get a couple more reinforcing like that, and that once that water temperature gets, it seems like one that hits 75, it never really gets a chance to get back over 80. But
So we
it won't be
will.
long.
I just looked and I already forgot. So we will be back live on the 23rd.
Perfect.
October 23rd.
Yep, October 23rd. We're going to try to stick with this every 2 weeks because it's a transition time.
Yep.
It
changes quick.
So we're going to try to help keep you guys on top or ahead of the transition if we can.
keep asking the questions.
Yeah. All right. How can they get a hold of you, Greg?
Easiest way is probably just call me 727-919-8666.
Pat?
850-838-7541. One more cast.
And my phone number is 850-838-6101. And we will see y'all in a couple weeks. Thanks.
Good night.
Good evening.